These are highlights of stories that recall what it was like to grow up during the years of the Great Depression. 9 men and women who attend Mansfield Adult Day Health Center shared their memories with us. Each recollection is a tiny glimpse, a small snapshot of everyday life as it was lived by millions of Americans more than 70 years ago. With the help of our participants, we captured each of their stories using 3 techniques: video recording of one-to-one interviews, written summaries of those interviews, and artistic interpretation of their memories using the expressive medium of collage. Charlie was born in 1931 in a small town in northern Maine, just over the border from Canada.
Great Depression, it hurt the farmers and stuff, of course, but you had to live. Don't sit and cry about it, because that isn't going to help you any. I mean, if you sat back in the corner, it was over. You were all in trouble. You all had to get along. That's all there was to it.
The community was very strong, and everyone was aware of those who were struggling and trying to help.
It was a small town. John needs help, you know, and that's what happened.
Barbara was born in 1937, the oldest of 5 children. She grew up in Natick at the end of the Depression and remembers what it was like when World War II was starting and the economic crisis was subsiding.
People back then were very, very private. And we used to have to stand in the butter line with our food stamps. Oh, it was awful. And that would be buttermilk and eggs.
Her father worked as a warden at night, and Barbara remembers the blackouts and sirens going off.
We were at my aunt's house, and the war was over, and we were driving back, and everybody was tooting their horns.
Josie was born in 1929.
My father worked for the town of Sharon, highway department.
He was fortunate to keep his job during the Depression.
We were what you'd classify as poor, I think. But it seemed that you sacrificed certain things you were used to that you couldn't, have anymore.
World War II troubled Josie greatly.
I have relatives who went into the service. My brothers both left. Some cousins. One cousin was killed in the service too.
Rudy grew up on a dairy farm in Mansfield.
The Great Depression, I was working on the farm, so it didn't bother me too much. We milked cows.
Rudy enjoyed working on the farm with his father and siblings. He and his brothers worked the farm of about 40 dairy cows. His family sold the milk to Mansfield Dairy and was fortunate to do all right financially. He learned to get over things fast.
What will happen will happen. I take the bad ones with the good ones.
Carole has many memories of her grandmother, who was born in 1908.
She came here when she was 9 years old by herself. Her last name was Columbalongo. Her name got transferred to Sadie Long.
Carole remembers her grandmother's stories about working hard to survive.
Her and her family, they didn't have a lot to eat. They had to sometimes resort to killing rabbits to have a decent meal and stuff like that.
Sadie lived in Revere and after marrying had 8 children, one of whom was Carole's mother. Her son Frank, a Purple Heart recipient, was a great help to her as she got older.
He went off to war. He went to World War II. He got the purple hat. I have his purple hat, and I have my grandmother's picture with him and stuff like that.
Jim was born in 1930 and has many memories of how his family helped others in need during the Depression. He and his two brothers and sister were raised on Rosemont Street in Dorchester. His father was a Boston Post pressman who had a regular paycheck every week.
She was a pressman. We were lucky. My father had his regular paycheck every week. It never reduced when the Depression sprung.
Jim's parents were very conscious of how hard people had it. He remembers working for weeks getting food baskets made and hand-delivered for people in need. When he was 5 or 6, his mother sent him to school with the instruction to see how many of his classmates didn't have lunch to eat.
They told me what it was for. Jimmy, there's people out there that there's a depression on and they don't have an income. Some of them have no food in the house. I went into first grade. My mother would ask me every day, is there any kids in the room, Jimmy, that don't have a lunch when they come to school with them? I says, yeah, there's 1 or 2, Mom. She says, how many, Jim? I said, I can't tell you exactly, because I never knew you wanted to know. So she told me, you go to school tomorrow, and you just count the number of boys and girls that don't have a lunch. That's all I want to know.
Thereafter, he would bring lunches for those children. Born in 1945, Jean was a nurse practitioner who grew up in Thetford Center, Vermont. Even though her parents did not talk much about the Depression, she remembers their lessons in being frugal and generous.
You had to use everything, everything down to the very last drop. And you had to learn how to use all those things down to the last drop. But we all had good food. My father was superintendent of a copper mine, so we were actually better off than most of the workers. My mother was always out doing something for somebody or something like that.
Ruth was the youngest of 5 children, 4 girls and 1 boy. Her mother was from Ireland, and her father didn't support them well.
We were poor. My father didn't give much money to my mother, and she had to raise 5 children, plus herself. But we made it.
When her sisters were able to work, they pitched in and brought wages home to share.
And we all helped each other. 'Cause I had one sister, she was the oldest, and she got a job with 5 and 10 and give my mother the money for what she earned. But it was a good life, only for my father.
Antoun was born in 1956 in Turkey. He was one of 12 children. The economic situation was as difficult in Turkey as it was around the world.
Good father. He has good heart. He worked very hard. He need make money, giving kids food, It's very good. And the mother, she's worked hard also. We have a lot of sisters. He helped my mother. My father, he born Turkish. He died there.
Antoun decided to come to the United States, emigrating by himself in 1985.
I think for future always. I work good, maybe I help my family, I lucky, I make money, I send it there.
This project, completed in 2013, has been supported in part by a grant from the Mansfield Cultural Council, a local agency which is supported by the Mass Cultural Council, a state agency.